Okay, so now we are ready for adding some more dimensions into our pansies. So I'd like you to get out a number 6. And what we're going to do now is going to add a little bit of floating medium if you need some fresh stuff. And I'm just going to add a little tiny bit to the side here. Just a little tiny drop. Okay, so I want to add side load that little puddle with my little tiny brush, so then that way I can really see, because when you go into these little pods here, sometimes you can't always judge how far down you are, and then you end up picking up too much floating medium. So definitely I want to pick up floating medium through the whole brush, but you know, I don't want too much, so I'm just going to pick it up a little bit on the side load, which was kind of hard to see with the clear there. Okay, so I want to show you a little trick to pop in some color. Okay, so I did this upside down, but if you feel more comfortable, do it this way. Okay, because that's generally the direction that you're going to do it anyways. So definitely got floating medium, lots of floating medium, and if you need a bit more floating medium, you can always add some to the one corner after you get the color loaded in there. Okay. So the trick that I'm going to show you now is how to add some depth into this guy, because he's so light. And I did this on purpose because I knew I was going to show you this trick. So what we're going to do here is add a little center dot. Let me see if I can get this a little closer for you. Yeah, probably. Okay. That's about as close as I can get there for you. Okay, so just in case my brush is not good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little shade into my flower. Okay, so you're going to do your wiggle up and down, okay, and add a little shading into your pansy. Now, as I work with it and I feel like it's not covering enough, then you know, I'll add a little bit more paint to that corner, and then I will come back in. Okay. So you're going to try to copy your petals, okay, and some will be longer, some will be shorter, some will be longer. Okay, but you don't want to go very deep into your white, because then you won't see the white anymore. Okay, so it's just a little shadow that we're popping in there. Okay, if you feel like you're lost your clearness, just wipe out your brush, tip it with the floating medium, move down into a clean area if you have to. Sorry, you guys didn't see that because I'm up in Zoom. But if you're too big of an area and you get too much color, then you know, try to pick up and then move down your puddle so that you're not getting too much color. Okay? And then, you know, move again just in case you're picking up way too much color. And then I'm going to carry on, and now I can add some. So it looks like you double loaded your brush on both sides with the dark and white in the middle. Okay, so again, try to follow, you know, a little bit of the original stroke so that you get that little bit of happiness in there. Okay. A little bit more floating medium. Anytime that you feel like you've got too much color, you could always get a wet brush and just erase it before it dries, and kind of soften it out a little bit, and anywhere that you don't like as you go, and then make sure it's good and dry before you try again. And then I just want to put a little bit more, and again this time I want to try and focus on, I can spread it out a little bit so it's catching almost the grooves of your original stroke, because it kind of has that streakiness there and bumpiness, so sometimes it'll actually catch some of those areas and be sliding along, and you'll see that it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Okay, so I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing. Alright, a little bit more over here. Just see how your color is doing. Okay, so this is a little bigger stroke, so I can maybe bring this out just a little bit more. So we're going to be adding some more little dimensions to this guy too, but I just wanted to get this little extra shadow in there before I carry on. Okay. So again, you can bump up anything that you're not happy with. If you feel like you want to even kind of bump in this a little bit darker, you can always go in here and make that a little darker in there. And you're just kind of doing the same thing and just adding a little bit more depth. Okay. You want to bring that color in there a little bit more because you hardly see the pink. So those are little tricks that we do to enhance our paintings. Okay. So again, with the white one, we can always do the same thing with our, be really careful. And I don't know why I keep going upside down, but I only want a little bit of this one, so and then we can make this just a little bit darker and have more control. Okay, so sometimes I'll dot it in the center, and then I got paint there, and then I go and pick up my floating medium, and then when I do the streakiness, I'm actually picking up from the dot. Okay, and then you can continue on, and that's another little trick that you can do as well, and utilize the dot of color that you place down. And you're going to try and create that little face that sometimes is in the pansy. Come out a little bit more just in the center. Okay, a little bit down here in the center here. We can focus. So if you're having too much color, which I'm starting to feel like I am, just rinse out your brush and try to come out on the outside now where you're not in that strong color, just to soften things out a little bit. Because once you're nice and dry, it's really easy to erase what you don't like, water it down, soften it out. And bring it out just a little bit at a time as you feel like you need to. So you can use this trick in lots of the different advanced projects that we're going to be doing in the future to pop in another color of depth, so then that way it looks like it's really popping out at you. Okay, and then we'll pop in some nice bright yellow on this guy, and then it'll be just a very simple little center, but it looks like you have a lot of detail in there. Okay. So what I also want to do is also fix his edge, because I'm not really happy with how bright it is. So again, I will do the same trick with white. Okay. And then I'll just kind of pop in around the edge, and sometimes I'll have to tip it with a little bit more white just to kind of fix this. And I use the bigger brush, so you're just using the edge of your color just to kind of go around the edge to intensify. And only you and I know that we took all this little extra time. And just made it a little bit more better. It was good, better, and then best. Right? So I always push you to be your best. And try not to go over your original line, because if you do, then you're just going to have to pick up a little bit more paint and make it really thick there so that it covers better. And again, sometimes if these aren't standing out enough, you can always just kind of wisp in a little tiny bit of a highlight there. And just kind of perfect what you did and just try to follow your original stroke. It's like a cheat, I know. Okay. So again, if I want to add a little bit more highlight to this guy here too, I left this on purpose too. Alright, so you can always add a little bit more highlight to this guy. And you're just going to follow it along and then wisp it down like you originally did it. Okay, and then remember this guy here, we kind of covered some of it and it doesn't stand out as much. And also you can always put a little highlight over there. Okay. And again, I'm just going to go right on top of my daisy stroke and just define it a little bit more. And if you can't wisp out really tiny and you don't like the way it ends, again, this is dry, so you can just erase some of that thick area that you don't like and cheat that area a little bit too. Okay, so you don't have to drive yourself too crazy getting these perfect, because there's lots of little ways that you can cheat a little bit. So because these guys are definitely a little closer to the sun, I can add a little bit of highlight even just to kind of one side. You don't have to really, do it all the way around the whole one. And then if you want to just make that look a little more curvy, also floating medium to the other side, then you can always pop in your highlight. Okay. It's harder to work with a smaller brush, then sometimes we have to cheat a little bit and erase what you don't like or thin down what you don't like. You can just go in there and kind of erase some of that highlight so that it's really, really, really tiny. So anywhere that's a tiny little one too that's sitting in front and I want it to pop out a little bit more, I'll just kind of just the edge of it. And then definitely, this guy that I tried to flip. Okay, so you're just going to follow that around. Okay, soften it out. And this one's not standing out so good, so I'm going to add a little bit of highlight there. If it's too white, then you can definitely steal a little bit of your green and make it like a dirty white, and then tip with your make a dirty white, and then tip with your white, so then that way you still have a nice bright edge. Okay, so don't do every leaf, you know, only the ones that, you know, this one's looking a little bit dark. Okay, so again, this one was too light, so I just went in and rinsed my brush quickly, and I'm going to soften this out before it dries. Okay, so I actually picked up some of that white on my edge, and I can just kind of soften that side. And so now you got a little 6. It is definitely harder to control that brush. And so I definitely want to intensify this little flip. Seem to be doing lots of erasing here. But this is the reality of it, you know, not all of us are totally perfect. And I don't want it to be too white that I have to go over on the other side either. Right, so I just want it to be very, very soft little light highlight. You already had your flip going on, it just wasn't intensified enough for my liking anyways. Okay, so I don't want to take all your time here watching me go through every single little leaf, adding, you know, highlights to some of them. You know, you've seen how I went over my line. I'm just going to erase this little blob on this side to clean up my error there. Okay. So just here and there you're going to add so I want to see your finished results. Okay, so I'm trying to make it like a really faint white. Okay, just enough to kind of add a little highlight. You don't have to do both sides. Right, so I'm gonna like fix this one, I'm gonna fix that one. So I definitely want to show you a few strokes with my number 2. And this one here, I would definitely probably just load up my brush properly, my 6, with my darker green again, and bring this one out a little bit more too, and define that one. And fix the ones that you don't like, right? And then I'll probably, this is space over here too, so I'm going to try and pop in some number 2s here and there as well, just to kind of fill it out and add a little kind of little sprigs coming off the edge of the corner of this one still. Okay, so to finish our centers of our daisies, I'm going to need some green, but right now I have my yellow here. So I'm going to add a little tiny dot of yellow here so that can start drying. And then I'm also going to just go with yellow over here. Okay, so check your dots. Okay. And then I want to use something a little different for this pink one. Okay, so I'm going to use some green in that one and some white into that one. So when we go back to using our green and the number 2 again, then I'm going to throw in the little daisy strokes in there with our number 2. Okay, so it's trying to utilize your brush as much as possible all at one time, and then that way you're not changing all the time. Okay, so you can at this point add a few more, get your script liner out and make some inky dioxin purple here. Okay, so it's too much, wipe some off. Test it, see how tiny you can get, alright? And if you can't get tiny, then add more water, right? And then really turn your brush, spin it, so that you're getting all the paint mostly off, and then you can, practice on your plate again and see how tiny can I get those little lines. Okay, and they don't have to be really strong with color, they can just be faint little lines. Okay. So I'm going to add a few of those into my purple one. Especially in these big ones. So you're trying to give it a little bit of coverage here and then random out. Okay. So that you could do a bunch of little strokes here if you want at the base. Okay. So this is another way to add some shading. Okay. You go back into your petal, and then now just every once in a while make some long ones. So if you want to add a flip into your top petals here, then I wouldn't put too many wisps right in the area where your highlight's going to be, okay? Or you'll have to add some purple into your white to redo that stroke with color instead of doing, our little trick with just the white. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to finish your pansies. So a lot of these little strokes here you only see in these petals here. You don't see too many in these bottom ones here at all. They stand out a little bit nice. Okay. But what you can do is you can add just a little bit of a highlight line with your dark right underneath your yellow dot. Okay. Or you can use your shading technique too to kind of put a little bit of darkness under there if you want, in a very subtle way without the lines. Just a little titch, and you can use some of that color up around the sides here to intensify the depth around the outside here. Okay. And if it's too strong of a color, just kind of dab some of that out, wipe it on your brush, on your towel, okay, and then you can pop in a little bit more stronger color really, really, really close to that center, okay, and jaggedy kind of. Very, very subtle here, a little stronger here. And so a lot of times the center is actually green sometimes in them too, so this is where I just like to put the yellow first so it kind of brightens things up, and then let that dry, and then I'm going to add a little bit of green to that one. So again, just want to darken that up a little bit more. You can just add some random depth into that. Okay. You can always water down and do the same thing with this. And just define these streaks a little bit more. Okay. And just keep going and unloading some of this, and then wipe off. You just gotta be careful. You're not gonna end up making it look like a different kind of flower, but just trying to give you as many different little ideas as possible to play with your colors. Okay, so I'm a little excited there, so I just want to erase some of that out of there. I'm losing my white. Alright. Hopefully you saw that upside down. Too white there. That's all it needed, was just to touch it with your fingers. Okay. Alright, there's so many different center ideas. It's like, what am I going to do? Alright, so let's bring back our plate with the green. Alright, so I'm going to pick up my number 2. And I'm going to I want to add a green dot here. Just use that as my thing. And then I'm going to add another little green dot inside my yellow dot over here. Okay. So I want to, oh, I need a little tiny bit of white on this. Now. And so all I want is white on my brush. Okay. And you're going to do 2 little upside down daisy strokes. And they're going to join right on top of your white. And one there. So just simple. And don't like it, let's try. And always perfect. Put a little point to it. Okay. Feel like it's too big. Alright, and then we can always do things a little differently with this one too. And maybe just do some dots, really tiny dots. Just on the top side. And then now we can pick up, I can do this. Yeah, just with your green. Now we're going to pick up all green. These are tiny little brushes now, so it's a little bit difficult to side load them, right? You can do the trick like that. Blend it in. And then what we're going to do a little bit differently now is we're not going to make sure it's too gloopy on one side, and we're going to just tip it into the white ever so lightly every single time we want to do a little stroke. Okay, so then you can add 3 little daisy strokes there, one there, and one there. Okay, so if you happen to go into your little bit of yellow, if it's dry, you can erase it. If it's not bright enough, then you can always just use white. And then, and I think I'm going to pick up, since I have the white here, is I'm going to pick up some of the lime, or the new happy green, and blend that in there a little bit. And I can always add some wisps into this one too. Okay, and if you want to wait, and there like that. If you want to do it the other way around, put those little teardrops in there, or daisy strokes in there first, and then put your dots in. You can do that too. And then I just want you to have room for them, you know what I mean? So if you put them in just very lightly for placement, then you'll be able to intensify them a little bit later. Okay. Same thing here, if you feel like you went over your dot too much, then you can always intensify it again. And then I can always add a tiny little dark dot into that one too. So, again, if you want to add a little bit of highlight onto these leaves, not too much because you're already dealing with a white flower there. So again, the same kind of thing I'll do, but when you're working with your two, your brush ends up getting squished and it's not very as wide as it can be. So what you end up having to do with your little two is keep squishing it right out so that you get it nice and wide. And then when you go in and pick up your dark color, then you can always, you can always load it like this too. But you're just being very ever gentle to keep your gradient. So all the nail artists that are out there that like to try to take my program, like I said, working big is great, and then you're going to push yourself to get smaller and smaller. Okay. So we can always add some tiny little green ones. Okay. Should we put more green into that? But I definitely wanted the brighter. So let's go over again. Okay. And make it really, really, really tiny ones. You can even double load and then tip your brush as well, right? So I want to make another one right here. Make sure not too much white. There. And it's funny where you have a little bit of a space. I'll just pop in over there. And yours might be looking slightly different than mine, but that's okay. They're close enough. Maybe one right there. So in every little plant, you should definitely try to put a small one, little tiny ones in there somewhere, and see where the best spot is. I definitely want to go over some of these again with some white, right? We haven't done that yet. It would be your assignment to finish doing all your highlighting where you need it, and intensifying where you need it. Because there's a lot of leaves here, and it'll probably take me at least another hour to play around and perfect every little thing that I want to fix on this design. So yeah, definitely I would use a 6 to float in a little bit more of a highlight here. If you want to flip your petal in there, and then flip another one in there. Okay, so these also make really pretty butterflies too. So if you want to flip another one very gently, okay. Definitely do that. And we're going to make this one definitely more interesting. So we're going to put some flips into this one. Okay, so again, depending on your strokes, if you overlapped, then you'll only be able to flip on the one side. Okay. And fix my point. You can do that, and then pop in your flip all at the same time. Okay, if you see if you get room there, intensify that. And your bottom one. A little bit more interesting flip to that one. This one's a little bit smaller. You can even try doing some flipping with your little tube. Heavy, not liking that one. Just take some water on a clean brush, erase it, okay, before, and then try again. Okay, so make sure it's dry before you try again. Dark enough. Again, if it's too much shadowing, just gotta rinse some away. And this one here is not as easy to do another flip on that side because of the way I chose to put it together. You can always just go over this little area too, you know, and intensify the whole stroke again. Right. Lighten that up. It's not standing out nice enough for you. You can always say, okay, well, then fine, then I'm gonna change you a little bit. Okay. So then therefore you have a little bit different look there. But nothing's ever totally wrong. Okay, so this one here is not light enough for you. Again, you can always, you know, change it by just adding the white. Right in there. And so at the same time, I'm trying to give you, you know, options. I might have liked that first original and then I wrecked it. You know, it's all about playing too. This is just practice paper, right? Going a little bit wider there. So I want to show you how to fix things too that you're not happy with. You can just always pop in a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, and you can always go in and highlight your little leaves that you have. Okay, especially on the darker ones. So you see how it's not always perfect, right? I just went in there and put it in there and then I took it out. So a little bit of that happens. Okay, so make sure you don't have too much on your brush. And then once you're happy with everything here, then you can load up your brush properly with your two colors of green. And then you're going to go right over on top of these guys here. And just going to wisp it around and out so it looks like he's on top again. And we can also define this one a little bit more. Okay, and it's not highlighting enough. I want this one to be a little bit lighter than the big one too. So you can go over it again with a little bit more white. And I'm just going to slide in that little fix because I really don't want to. I want this leaf to stay on top. Okay. So definitely, you know, there's some little bit of touches that I'm going to do. Pop things back on top or hide it behind. Okay. And then there we go. Okay, so this is what you're going to do is perfect everything you don't like. Go over it. Highlight it a little bit. Add some flips to your leaf. So I have my dirty brush here. Sometimes, you know, I'm going to reload, but instead, you know, you can just kind of wipe out. Go into your floating medium. Add a little bit of white. And then now I've got a dirty brush with some highlight. Okay. So then you can just go in and kind of fix some areas. So, and then you have that green following you behind a little bit too. Okay. So ones that are a little bit at the top where the sun shines, you're definitely going to fix anything here at the same time. And you can add some flips onto your leaves. I'm showing some on some ones that I know I'm not going to go over again. So remember, you can do them in both directions. So if you feel like It's going to look better in that direction. It's whatever you feel comfortable. I'm just going to go wherever we can. And most of the flips you're going to see are at the bottom. So always towards the leaf. Alrighty, last one. There you go. So I want you guys to play and finish them and perfect them as much as you want to play with them. And post some pictures on my group. That would be wonderful. And I'm really, really excited and grateful to be part of your journey. And like I said, I just can't wait to see your practices. So if you need any help, definitely we'll meet on soon.